Chad Cochran is a talented photographer based in Cleveland and known for his unique and creative approach to capturing moments and telling stories through his photographs. His work often showcases a keen eye for composition and lighting and emotion, resulting in visually striking and thought provoking images. Cochran's portfolio includes a variety of subjects, from portraits and landscapes to urban scenes and events, all with his distinctive style and perspective. His photography has garnered attention for its artistry, authenticity, and ability to connect with you on a deeper level. I Didn't Want to Tell You is a series that aims to reduce stigma around mental health by creating a safe space for you and whoever to share their experiences. The series started as a photography project by Chad Cochran, a photographer from right here in the CLE. Chad Cochran, I'm really, really looking forward to hearing about your journey because it's quite a journey.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking the time to do this. I'm very grateful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you were all corporate America for a long, long time, and then something changed. How did that happen?
So, I've always had like an artistic outlet of some form. When I was in college, I played in bands. And then after college, I went through raising a family. And so that was my primary focus for a long time. And then when I was 40, I was gifted a camera. And it, what ended up happening is it kind of gave me the opportunity to go back and kind of reconnecting with what I grew up with. I grew up in very rural Ohio. I grew up in Fredericktown. I'm always very proud to say that's where I grew up. A small town of 1,800 people. So, and what I recognized is a lot of the things that I was drawn to were things that I grew up seeing on a pretty daily basis. So like old farm, even though I didn't live in the country, I lived in town. There was still a farm field across the street. That was kind of my connection. So I would see old farmhouses, old signs.
And this is after you are gifted this camera.
Yeah, and so like when I started using that camera, it really it helped provide that connection to my hometown and kind of the rural Ohio that I grew up in. And then your question was what happened like from corporate America until
Right.
and then what happened. So
I don't want to steal your thunder.
No. So, for several years, I very much focused on rural photography. Music, on the other hand, has always been something that is incredibly near and dear to my heart. It's something that has gotten me through good times, tough times, and has always been something that I've relied on.
That's really interesting because I feel like music, you just said it's almost hard to listen to at times in our lives, and then it also lifts us.
For sure.
So you were able to utilize that in both regards.
Yeah, like so it's interesting. When I was first working just doing like rural photography in corporate America, what I would do is that was my break. So like that was my alone time. So if I went out to take photos, I would listen to music, I wouldn't take phone calls, and it would just be like kind of me getting away. So it was like my mental health, like take care of yourself.
Yeah.
That was me taking care of myself.
It was your hobby.
Yes, it was a
That
hobby.
was also very therapeutic.
100% all of that. And then a few years passed. I had done some art shows. I was living in Columbus at the time, and I had a musician by the name of Lydia Lovelace reach out to me, and Lydia said, "Hey, you take really pretty pictures of Ohio. Would you ever consider putting a person in there?" And my response back to her was no, because at the time I wasn't a portrait photographer. I didn't do that. And it was like my alone time. So I didn't necessarily, like I spent so much time in corporate America talking to people during the week that I wanted like that solitude or that opportunity to not talk to somebody.
It was your place of peace.
Yes, absolutely that. Fortunately, she pushed really hard back on me. I think she replied back to me, and her quote was, "Are you kidding me?" I was like, "Oh, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should give this a try." And so Lydia was the first person I worked with, and then a handful of other musicians. Very shortly after that, I also did some photos with them. They were not great. It's not what I did. I had very little experience. By very little, I mean none. I had zero experience doing that. So it took me some time, but this is a very long-winded answer to get back to what you initially asked me is what changed?
Yeah.
And the thing that changed is that some of those musicians started talking to me about their mental health. And they started talking to me about, so many of them were dealing with battling sobriety. Some of them were battling with childhood trauma. And coincidentally, at the time, my father, back in the 90s, had gone through a couple back surgeries, had fallen into the opioid epidemic,
I'm so sorry.
which later ended up taking his life. But it was that moment where I was like, so I should be able to do something good with this too, right? Like I should be able to find a way to do something positive with this. And so for 2 years, kind of like did the, smack my head against the wall, trying to find a way to start this mental health project. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. I had the name, and it was called I Didn't Want to Tell You. But the initial idea is that I was going to go to people and I was going to ask them to tell me a secret. It was going to be something they'd never talked about before. So that would be like this moment, like this euphoric moment of disclosure where they would tell me all about something they'd never talked about. And I took it to a few of my friends and they were like, "Hey, that's a really good idea." I'm not going to do it. But it sounds like a really good idea. And I was like, "Oh, I'm missing something here." I had presented it to a few big magazines and just wasn't getting any real response.
But you weren't giving up either.
I never gave up. And there was a woman that I was on her podcast very early and she had helped me out. Her name is Sloan Spencer, and Sloan was kind of my sounding board. So I would go back to her and I'd be like, "Hey, what am I missing here? Like, what am I doing wrong?" She's like, "Don't stop. What you're doing is important. It's just not hasn't fully formed yet." So eventually I got to the point where all I did was change the question. So instead of it being this secret that somebody was going to tell me, the question was, how has mental health played a role in your life? Completely changes the way, it doesn't feel invasive. It doesn't feel like I'm pushy. It's provides somebody the opportunity to kind of take the conversation in whatever direction they want to. So if they want to talk about themselves, that's available. If they want to talk about parent, sibling, friend, whoever it is, they have that opportunity too.
Yeah.
And that's all it took.
Wow.
So a bunch of the folks that I had taken portraits of over that amount of time, I reached out to them. First 6 people all said yes, they would participate. And I was published by that fall.
Wow.
So it's a good reminder. Don't stop. Like if you think you're onto something good, have a good sounding board, but don't stop. And so it just took me a little bit of time to get there.
I admire you so much. I was thinking as you were talking a moment ago about them sharing their mental health with you. And that has to feel good to know that you're delving into a subject, even though mental health has become more of a accepted thing. I believe even mental health is still stigmatized to a degree.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And I've tried to, the way that when I talk about the I Didn't Want to Tell You series, I try to tell people that I'm just a facilitator.
Yeah.
It's their story. It's sometimes my photo that I've taken of them, but not always.
Yeah.
Because what's more important to me is getting the story out there. And it's interesting that you say, talking about it being stigmatized, because the full tagline is "I didn't want to tell you," and then it is about removing the stigma, right? It's about removing the stigma from mental health. And the objective when I first, started doing this is that I wanted people to not feel alone. I wanted them to recognize that when they saw those stories, they would be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
other people too. It's not just me." And so that was really the goal, was to try to make it as robust as possible with as many different vantage points that people have with life and how mental health has kind of woven in and out of their lives, for people to have something that's relatable.
I can't believe you just said. So I came out with my mental health in 2017. And at that time, it was really risky. It wasn't talked about nearly as much as it is now. So much like many people, I have generalized anxiety. I have PTSD and trauma. I took the leap of faith and I called the series "You Are Not Alone."
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's great.
So I'm like, have I met you before? I was still not okay mentally as I was doing the series and helping others. Do you find that at times with yourself?
Yeah, like when I first started the series, I was very heavily dealing with the impacts of my father. And so a lot of the conversations that I was having, even though that was kind of like the impotence of starting it, like why I wanted this series to happen, it also was mentally challenging for myself, because I was dealing with, watching a human being that was such an integral part of my life, slowly kind of vanish. So that was incredibly hard. And then I feel incredibly fortunate that I'm able to do this series. But I will very transparently admit that sometimes when I'm sent the stories, because people typically will email them to me and then send them to me, there have been more than one time where I'll get the story and I'll read the first paragraph and go, "Nope, not today. I don't think I can do this today. I'm going to come back to this story tomorrow. I'll read through it."
You're triggered.
There are some days where I will read it and be like, "Oh, that's super heavy. I don't think I'm in a mental place to read that today. I'm going to come back to it tomorrow," and be able to just look at it through a new set of eyes instead of doing it in that moment.
Listen, taking that pause, which I feel like has to make everybody much more successful in the long run. It's hard to take the pause, though.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like when I first started doing photography, like I was not good at saying no,
No.
right? Like I was also,
Pleaser syndrome?
it was pleaser, but I was also like, it was like the pleaser. It was the being incredibly driven because I was excited about what I was
I
doing,
get it.
but also some masking in there.
Totally.
Right. So, there was a very long period of my life in it. I moved to Cleveland 11 years ago, and the first, right up until the pandemic, when we were forced to stop or forced to slow down, I ran really hard. Like I would be at concerts almost every single night of the week. I had a corporate job, which I still have. And so I was doing everything, to fill time. And I think
Were you filling time without knowing it, maybe purposely
oh,
to avoid?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and it wasn't until I had done some therapy myself that they pointed that out. And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's exactly what I was doing."
Isn't therapy the best?
It Coming from a very small conservative town, I try to be very open about therapy. I think that there is such a stigma around therapy, and people, they think it's going to be some guy with, a jacket
Right.
with the leather patches on his elbow, smoking a pipe.
As you're laying on a couch.
All of the TV type things
Like you're laying on a
Right.
couch
um,
and you are just hanging on.
yeah, like I and I'm not so sure that that wasn't my perception when I first started. It took me a while to finally get there. And now you're like, "Oh, it's just another person."
Yeah.
And we have conversations, and they will sometimes ask me questions.
And it's the best thing you can do for yourself. And I hate that there's stigma around it.
Yes.
I hate it. Like, I want to change that.
Okay, so we just filmed a commercial for people to go out and get
Perfect.
go to therapy.
Yes.
It's okay. You'll be all right.
And we'll be right back. I'm kidding. So, abruptly authentic moment for you. Like, was there a moment? Maybe it wasn't a moment. Maybe it was something that occurred over some time. It's different for everybody.
I think the big moment is when I'll tell the story because it's one of my favorites. So there's a
Please do.
singer-songwriter named Caleb Cottle. I had mentioned Sloan, my friend. She was having, I think it was like her 5th or 7th, maybe it was her 5th year anniversary of her podcast. And I had tossed something out on the internet that said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if musicians and artists did like house shows together where musicians playing, artists showing work, and there was like some way to kind of like tie them together. And she sent me a message. She's like, hey, can you be in South Carolina on April 10th or whatever the day was? And I was like, I'm actually free that weekend. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, one room schoolhouse. Caleb Cottle's going to be the music guest. You can show your art in the back. And I was like, I'll do it. So I get down there. I'm still not very good. Like, I still don't really know what I'm doing as far as doing portraits.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of Caleb, and he reached out to me prior and said, hey, if we're going to be down there together, let's take some photos. And so again, my brain, of course, yes, let's do it. Petrified. I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing. This guy, I'm a fan of, and I like his music. Let's do it. So we get there, and if anything, I have I've been in sales my entire life. I can carry a conversation. I can do that. Like I can talk to somebody. And so I'm interested in the business side of music. So I'm asking him some like business type questions about music, like how do you do it? Like, I think I asked the question. I said, at your level, like when do you get a manager? Like, do you have a manager now? And he's like, yeah, you actually might know him. And in my brain, I'm like, I'm not gonna know who this is. And I'm like, well, who's your manager? He's like, well, it's Andy Tennille. And I heard that name and I'm like, man, I know who that is, but I can't think. I'm like, how would I know Andy? He's like, oh, he's Tom Petty's tour photographer. And I like,
of course he is,
collapsed like an accordion. I'm like, wait, why am I here?
You were free falling.
Yes.
Sorry.
Very much. That
very, very
well played. Well played. It was well played.
Well, you were kind of, if you think about the irony of that free falling.
Yes.
You were taking the risks.
I was definitely
and
taking
free falling. I couldn't help it. So.
Yes, no. It was appropriately timed. And so 2 weeks later, those photos had been published 10 times. Like, they turned out great. And that was the moment where I was like, oh, maybe I can do this. Yeah. Like maybe this is like, I took that being petrified moment, it, whatever type of adrenaline it threw into my body. And then we had great results. And so it really motivated me to learn my camera better, because at the time I still didn't really know what I was doing. And so I felt it really pushed me to be more invested in what I was doing, understanding how important these photos and documenting these folks are moments in time and is incredibly important to them.
Yeah.
And so that was probably my big moment where I was like, it's
a
okay.
Great moment.
I'm like, I think I could do this.
Yeah. So what's next? What is next?
So one thing I do during the summers is I partner with a handful of music festivals, and it's a collaboration where I do portraits of bands backstage for them. And then I also provides me the opportunity to talk about the mental health series while I'm there. So I'll be going to, I don't think I've announced this anywhere. So also here.
Oh my gosh.
So
hold on. I feel like confetti.
I will be heading back to the Nelsonville Music Festival this year, working with them. One of my favorite places. I love Southeast Ohio. I will be partnering again this year with Healing Appalachia, which is Tyler Childers has put on a festival, like 3 day festival the last several years, and it's incredibly important to me. It is all about helping finance folks getting treatment and help in the Appalachian region who have suffered from the opioid crisis.
Yeah.
I will again be a speaker at the What Do You Got Three Folk Festival in Okemah, Oklahoma, and that's in July. And I'm also, for the first time in several years, heading back to Nashville for Americana Fest.
Wow. Well, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
In a great way.
It is.
I have to ask you, though, before we wrap this up, favorite things in Cleveland?
Wow.
I know. It does not have to be one thing. It should be a few.
So, okay, I'll give you a few things. I love the Rock Hall. Huge Rock Hall fan. I'm incredibly fortunate. I have some of my early concert photography.
Is it in there?
It's not been shown, but it's in the archive. So
that's cool.
I love going to, I don't do it a lot, but I love going to a ball game. So I love going to see the Guardians.
Yeah.
Food. I am a vegetarian and have been for years.
I love that. What's your favorite place?
So I live on the west side, and I'm a huge fan of Cleveland Vegan. One of my all-time favorite places is in Lakewood.
Lakewood, I swear, it's like a gem.
It is. I love that it's walkable, and
Yeah.
there's just so much cool stuff there. And since we're on Lakewood, I would like not do. It would be a disservice if I didn't talk about the fact that I also have a art studio at the Screw Factory in Lakewood. So anybody who has an interest in stopping by, there are, you can follow them on any social media, but they always talk. I think we have 5 or 6 events annually that are over the weekends. And so if anybody would like to stop in there, that'd be great to see them.
Yeah. This has been so wonderful to just have a conversation with you.
It was great to meet you, and I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah. Where can I assume, and I will make sure that all of your socials are tagged. Are you everywhere?
Everywhere. So
Right.
I'll tell like a teeny story because
Is this not Patini?
so the moniker that I use online is Cowtown Chad. COWTOWN and then my name Chad.
Okay.
So a lot of people ask me, how did you come up like
I was about to.
Yes. So when I first started and I was doing, like corporate America was kind of meeting my photography career, like when I was first starting it, I really wanted to have some anonymity. I didn't really want people to know who I was. I used a logo. I didn't use my actual name anywhere. And I did that for several years. And I used to live in Columbus, and Ohio State used to be an agricultural school. And so a lot of people called Columbus Cowtown. Fully aware there are plenty of other places. I think Kansas City and maybe Fort Worth. Like people always ask me like, oh, are you from Texas? I'm not. So matter of fact, there's a cool place called Cowtown Guitars that started in Columbus and they're now in Las Vegas. And I always thought that name was cool. And I'm like, oh, I can make that work. Like I kind of do rural stuff.
I was thinking that as you started talking.
Yeah. So I always feel somewhat obligated to say, how did you come up with that name?
Yeah.
So that's the story. But yeah, all from TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Threads.
All right.
I'll
make sure.
all those things.
Yeah. We will connect.
For sure.
Everything that you're doing, thank you so much. Keep inspiring. And thank you for having a voice with mental health.
Thank you. And I will reciprocate here and say, thank you for being so open about everything that's happened in your life. From, what you were talking about when you did the mental health series to what you're doing today. You are one of those voices too. You're one of those people that a lot of people know. And it's incredibly important to keep at it. And so
I appreciate
kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Well, on that note, we'll say till next time.
Till next time.
Till next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chad. but do you not like Lake Erie?
So
I'm like, how do you not mention Lake Erie?
it is very weird that when you asked me what Cleveland things I like,
Yeah.
that Lake Erie was not the very first answer. Because
Did you go blank?
honestly, the first thing I thought of was food.
I'm gonna call you Cowboy Chad.
That's maybe worse.
Cowboy Chad.
I always joke. I'm like, I took a couple good pictures of people in cowboy hats, and that's literally what I'm known for now.